And you're on.
All right, good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We need a roll call of school committee members to begin with. Jennifer?
Here.
Cassie?
Here.
Heather?
Here.
Mike?
Here.
Bill?
Here.
Joanna?
Here.
And Tina did Timmy call in?
Yes, Timmy should be in, unless she left. Yeah, sorry, I think she left. But she
Okay,
was
cool.
earlier in the waiting room.
Okay, if she comes back in, maybe just let me know.
Okay.
Thank you. Members of the public who wish to attend the meeting may join the meeting through the following links. It may be found on the website under School Committee Notice and Agenda for upcoming meetings under tonight's school committee meeting list. Per Governor Baker's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, the public will not be allowed to physically access the school committee meeting. Members of the public can access the meeting via Montague Community Television broadcast. The extension of the emergency open meeting law provisions were signed into law as Chapter 20, Section 20 of the Acts of 2021. And the school committee reserves the right to implement additional remote participation procedures and will notify the public of these procedures when necessary. We'd like to welcome any visitors we have in Zoom this evening. We are also live streaming and broadcasting on MCTV, and a recording of the meeting will be available on MCTV and our Gill-Montague Regional School District website. This would be the time for public participation if anyone was so wishing. We have not notified, but it's that anyone wants to, but it is policy BEDH, and it has been reinstated to hold public participation remotely. Anyone desiring to do that can find the information on our site. And welcome to the Zoom audience. If you are in the Zoom audience, please remember to keep your camera and your microphones off. Thanks. Okay, important events. Brian?
Thank you. So, on Wednesday, September 15th, Student Picture Day for the high school and middle school. Also on Wednesday, September 15th at 4 p.m. is a Friends of Sheffield meeting. Wednesday, September 22nd will be the open house for Great Falls Middle School at 5 o'clock and then at 6:30 for Turner's Falls High School. And as I'll note later, I did make the decision to have all open houses for the fall be remote. Tuesday, September 21st will be Hillcrest School Picture Day. Thursday, September 23rd is Sheffield School Picture Day. Friday, September 24th is Gill School Picture Day. On Thursday, September 23rd, I'll be joined by Joanne Blyer and Steve Ellis at Mohawk Trail Regional High School for the Rural Schools Legislative Roundtable. There will be a number of school districts who will be attending in an effort to share our concerns about the sustainability of school budgeting and other processes in an effort to try to get some changes made to the funding formulas. Gill Elementary School will hold a COVID vaccine clinic on Tuesday, September 21st at 4 p.m. There'll be a vaccine clinic at Turner's Falls High School on Thursday, September 23rd, right after starting at 2 p.m. And Sheffield Elementary School will hold a COVID vaccine clinic also on Thursday, beginning at 4 p.m. Sheffield Elementary will hold a flu vaccine clinic in October on the 6th. Gill Elementary will hold a flu vaccine clinic on October 14th. Hillcrest Elementary will hold one on October 15th, and Turner's Falls High School, Great Falls Middle School will hold a flu vaccine clinic on October 19th. I can't thank Melissa Bednarski for the work that she's done in bringing all of these resources to us here in the district. So I know she's not here on the call, but she's done remarkable work to help keep our kids in our community healthy and safe.
Okay, thank you for those announcements. Does anyone else have any other announcements? Once in a while, somebody on the committee will get one. Okay. In that case,
Sorry, Joanna has her hand up.
I just actually have a question, and I'm sorry if it's a little foolish, but Brian, are all of those vaccines for everyone in Montague just open to the public? And
Yes.
Okay, I just
Yes,
wanted
and they've been put out that way. Also, a couple of other organizations, including I did send them to the town administrator, and Steve Ellis has posted that they're open to the public and has taken that information and put them out there.
Well, I really appreciate that, just in case I have any questions. Thank you.
I did think, Brian, that the flu shots were limited at this point to students and family members due to the number that were provided, whereas the COVID shots
And
are available.
given that I think you are correct with that. It is the COVID shots that are open to the public, but I will double check because the flu vac and report to the committee next time because the flu vaccine clinics aren't held until October.
Thank you.
I did also want to take this opportunity, if it's reasonable, to introduce, we will have 2 new student representatives to the school committee, and we have one of them here tonight. We'll be joined at another time by Adriana Bassett, but tonight I wanted to introduce the committee to Sina Katsoulis. If you want to say hi, Sina.
Hi, Sina.
Super glad to be here. Hey,
We're so glad to have you join us.
glad to be part of it.
I do also want to add that Sina was extremely helpful in offering us time over the summer in our process to search for a new principal for the high school. So thank you, Sina.
Great, great. And so I think the arrangement will be what it was last year, that you and Adriana will take turns being our student rep. And that will be wonderful because it's always good to hear from the students what's happening. And always remember that once you have given us your report, it's perfectly fine if you need to leave the meeting for something important like homework or something like that. But you're more than welcome to stay anytime.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
You can, however, use staying at the meeting to get out of doing household chores, just so that you're aware.
No, you can't.
Now, you're not allowed to vote on that. We did not have a vote, Heather. Thanks. Okay, Brian, I believe superintendent's report.
Again, the meeting for this report is relatively brief, with the focus really being on what we're seeing as a spike in the area. That in Montague alone, there have been 20 cases in the last 14 days as of last Thursday. My understanding is that by Monday, we're looking at 21 cases in the town of Montague just in the past 7 days. While the percent positivity remains reasonable, you can see from the chart that I included that Montague and almost all of our surrounding towns are seeing steady increases in the total case counts and percent positivity. And statewide, you know, we're looking at 20,000 cases, whereas the last time we reported out, which was 3 weeks ago, I think it was at 14,000. Prior to that, it was 8,000. So I'm hopeful that we are at the top of a peak, or hopefully reaching that soon, and that perhaps those numbers will trend in the other direction. There's been a slight increase in the number of people who are fully vaccinated at 63%, and at least one dose has been administered to 70% of people in Franklin County. The CDC ranks the risk of transmission for counties across the country in one of 4 categories: low, moderate, substantial, or high. As of yesterday, Franklin County's risk level, according to the CDC, was moved to high. As a result of the increases in positive cases in the community and the region, we've decided to hold fall open houses for schools remotely. I'll keep the community updated if local, state, or regional authorities compel the district to further limit public access to school buildings. But as of right now, with there being a substantial presence of the virus in our community, we don't want to bring parents into the buildings in large numbers and risk transmission. I've kept the school committee appraised of the total number of cases, or when a case arises, I communicate with the community, you know, the limited information that we can communicate. just to be transparent about cases being reported to the community. And despite the fact that we've had a number of cases throughout the district experience at the opening of school for the year, since the pandemic has started, we still have not had a case of transmission in schools. And that's exactly what the safety protocols are intended to do, is eliminate or substantially reduce the likelihood of transmission. So they're working. And there are a variety of factors that contribute to that. One, that masking indoors and physical distancing is something that we still have to keep in place. Clean air exchange in the school buildings is a result of the updated HVAC systems, air purifiers, keeping windows open to add additional clean air to the classrooms and meeting spaces. But I think it's really worth noting to the committee, and I will do this in my next COVID communication, to emphasize that I really think that the most important reason why we have not had a case of transmission in schools is because staff and families have been very attentive to the daily self-check, and they're actually taking proactive action, not only to keep their children home, or in the case of staff, to keep themselves home, but they're communicating with the schools very quickly. And that really is indicative of a commitment on the part of the entire community to keep us all safe, including other people's children. And I'm very proud of the fact that our community, despite our fatigue with having the virus around, is still taking the virus very seriously and protecting one another's children and our staff. Despite significant delays caused by slow and inconsistent movement on testing support at the Department of Education, we finally received our supplies on Friday of last week. District nurses, and I will add to that, having gone to a conference yesterday, I was frustrated to find out that at least 2 Eastern Mass schools received their supplies 9 days in advance of our receipt of the supplies. So again, I'm concerned about the inequities of the testing program and the potential favoritism, again, of Eastern Mass schools. I can't imagine it takes 9 days to ship out to Western Mass. District nurses have begun to implement the test and stay protocols, as well as rapid testing for students who are symptomatic. The test and stay program allows students who have been identified as close contacts to remain in school. If they test negative, they test each morning. And if they test negative, they can stay in school. If they test positive, they have to come, their parents have to come pick them up, and then they follow quarantine protocols. So that's helpful in terms of keeping children in school and providing them the opportunity to learn while simultaneously trying to keep the virus out. DESE still, however, has not provided us with contracted coordinators to begin regular COVID screening. So what used to be called pool testing, we've not been able to conduct it. And Melissa Bednarski continues to reach out to organizations that might help us expedite the implementation in the absence of support from the Department of Education. And it's very frustrating for us as superintendents to have the commissioner not put something out, because there are many superintendents who are being questioned every day. Why aren't we pool testing? Why aren't we pool testing? Why aren't we pool testing? When the commissioner could just explain to the public what the problems are so that we don't have to field those questions. So I just wanted to make the committee aware, and I will send out an email to the committee when pool testing is actually up and running here in the school district. In turn, Mike?
Would some sort of action on part of the committee be helpful? Angry phone calls, some letters, call our reps, anything?
We have something out as a group of superintendents that who are actually getting together tomorrow and doing it as a group of people will hopefully prompt him to send something out, because again, many superintendents are getting a lot of flack for not getting it up.
Yeah, sure. Well, no, because you working inside DESE is only going to stay inside DESE. This is not the first commissioner. We know how these people operate.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can talk about it later perhaps, but I think maybe we should, but thank you.
Okay. I don't think it would hurt. Finally, I just wanted to give an update on some work that's being done in facilities, that the lumber and necessary materials have arrived at Sheffield yesterday to repair to the playground, and facility staff will begin repairs this week. So we anticipate that the entire playground at Sheffield will be safely reopened soon. Facility staff have made and are in the progress of completing several safety updates across the district. A digital radio system has been put online, replacing the older two-way radios used to communicate concerns and safety needs throughout the district. The updated system has a greater range, an ability to communicate between schools and offices rather than exclusively within a school, and has a substantially longer battery charge. The video security systems are in and will be installed to replace the older systems that are currently up. And in addition, a new door locking system will be installed over the course of the next few weeks across the district. And this installation will provide easier access for public safety personnel in the event of a school emergency, given that it's a one-key system for them for any of the facilities in the district. So I wanted to say thank you to Heath for those updates and for the coordination of those safety improvements. And that's it for my report.
Thank you, Brian. Does anyone on the committee have any questions for Brian about his report? No? All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, business and operations report. Joanne, please.
We have a budget transfer that requires approval. So if we're transferring money within function codes, and that's the way we approve the budget. So 1,000 series of accounts is for administration, 2,000 series of accounts is for instruction, and so on, then we don't need approval to make a transfer within those categories. But if we transfer outside of that category, from outside, then we need your approval to do that. So we are transferring funds to cover some negotiable wages. These would be non-union personnel for changes in staffing and for changes in salaries. So that transfer is in your packet. Each year when we build the budget, we build funds into a negotiable salary line. And those are the funds that are used for this. So you can take a look at that transfer, and we're not going to read every single line, but there's transfers from negotiable increases to cover various changes in salaries.
And we need a vote on that, Joanne, correct?
Yes, and you can vote on it after or now.
We may as well do it now since it's your report. I'll entertain a motion to approve the budget transfers as indicated. Is there anything else you'd like us to say in that motion, Joanne?
Nope, that would be fine.
So moved.
Mike, thank you.
Heather, second.
And Heather seconded, and we'll need to take a roll call vote for any votes. I can find my list. I'm good. Therefore, we'll start with Jennifer,
Yes.
Cassie,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Joanna,
Yes.
and myself. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, the next item is the regionalization grant. So I heard from the Six-Town Regionalization Planning Committee that they wanted to apply for another grant. So there's two grants right now that are available. One of them is a continuation of the money that they applied for a year ago. So they applied for it a year ago. They had to spend it by the end of June, but the state decided that whatever they weren't able to spend by the end of June, they'd be able to roll over, basically reapply for, and they'll have until the end of December to spend those funds. So they are working on that grant right now. It's due on Friday. But last Friday, a brand new grant was due. So they also are applying for that, and the majority of those funds will go toward paying for a facilitator to bring the information that they have gathered out to the community, meet with community members, gather data, gather information from the community, and bring that back to the committee. So they felt it was important to have somebody from outside of the committee that's not been engrossed in it to go out there and gather the information from the community. See what the community thinks before they take another step with this process. So that grant has been applied for, and we will see, if they approve it. And I think they'll have until the end of next June to spend those funds.
Is there a timeline?
You cut out on us a little, but I'm thinking that you are asking about the timeline to know if that was approved. And I have not heard what the timeline is for approval of that grant yet. And I assume they'll have until the end of next June to spend it, which is typical.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. The rollover grant, they're only going to have until December to spend. And so that one also will be for the facilitator. We think that one will be approved quicker since it has to be spent by December. So they'll start with that one for the facilitator and then have the other grant to follow up with.
Okay.
So the next item is adult lunch prices. So we started this year without adult lunch prices in place. And while we have free lunch for all of the students, we can't give the adults free lunch. So we need to set a price for that. And we can't really use the price that we had in the past because we need to collect more money from adults than what we get as federal reimbursement for the students. And so because we're working under the summer feeding prices, the revenues we receive for each meal served to the students is higher than what we would have gotten in the past through regular school lunch time. So in order to reach beyond the federal reimbursement rate for students and then the USDA foods that we use in those meals, I met with Justin to take a look at the numbers, and it looks like we need to charge $5 for an adult lunch, and that would include tax, and $3 for an adult breakfast, and that also would include tax. Since we don't have a system in place to like we have no register set up in the schools as the kids are coming through because nobody is paying, it's just the number of meals we're serving. We're going to come up with a punch card system for adults. So if they give us $20 for meals, then they'll be able to punch how many breakfasts, how many lunch they're getting, and we'll keep those cards at the register for them. So we'll be able to have them put the money on account, and then they'll be able to get the lunches that way. So I will need approval for those adult lunch prices, which include tax, $5 for lunch, $3 for breakfast for adults.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Mike, thank you.
Seconded, Joanna.
Joanna, second. Any discussion? Okay, again, roll call vote. Jennifer,
Yes.
Cassie,
Yes.
Heather, maybe not. Okay, Mike,
Yes.
Bill,
Yep.
Joanna,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Thank you.
It looks like we may have lost Heather.
Yes, I think Heather had to leave the meeting.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. The next item I wanted to tell you about is our new transportation vehicle that we had talked about at a prior meeting about buying that vehicle with our rural aid funds. So the vehicle came in, got all registered and on the road just in time for our new transportation coordinator to start. And he is transporting 2 students to school in Vermont. So that so far so good. It's working out well with him. He's also getting on board with TransFinder and he's learning the route so we can take a look at that in a better way with TransFinder. And he'll be our day-to-day contact with the bus company as well. The next item is the surplus equipment, and we didn't get a list put together yet for you, so we will work on that before the next meeting.
Okay,
So I just need, we have some older vehicles that we need to get rid of. And so what I need from Heath is what exactly those vehicles are, what's their mileage, what's their value, so we can bring that to you to surplus, and then we'll put it out to bid and see if we can get people to bid. The highest bid would take the vehicle. And we just need to like set a bottom limit on that. Like, we don't want to accept $10 for the vehicle, so we'll set a bottom limit. If we can bring it to the junkyard and get more money, then it's worth doing that. We'll have the warrants for approval after. And then one other item that I need to vote on is the substitute pay. So we're having a lot of trouble getting substitutes, and, you know, we're having to hire more subs to provide coverage because we still have some open positions. So the substitute rate right now is $13.50 an hour, and that's the minimum wage. Minimum wage will be increasing to 14.25 on January 1st. And so I'm proposing that we increase that effective September 27th, which would be the day one of the next pay period, so that maybe we'll be able to fill some of these open positions. You know, people are coming to us and saying they can make more money elsewhere, and so they don't want to make $13.50 with us as a sub. So this would be for our hourly subs. So people that are subbing in any of our hourly positions, paras, custodians, food service, all of those positions.
thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve that substitute pay raise.
So moved.
Mike, thank you.
Seconded, Joanna.
Thank you, Joanna. Jennifer? In
Sorry.
favor?
Yes.
Cassie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Joanna?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you. Anything else, Joanne?
Nope, that's all I have.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Moving on to school committee reports, as Joanne mentioned, the warrants need to be approved. We have two warrants this evening. The first is accounts payable number 3205 dated 9/10/2021 for the amount of $188,178.24. That's for bills from this current school year. And the second one is accounts payable warrant number 3206, also dated 9/10/2021, in the amount of $100,986.28. And that is actually a cleanup for carryover purchases made under orders during fiscal year 2021. I'll entertain a motion to approve those together if that's acceptable.
So moved together.
Mike, thank you.
Seconded.
Joanna, thank you. Any questions about those? All those in favor, Jennifer,
Yes.
Cassie,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Joanna,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Thank you.
Susie B, seriously?
I think someone has their microphone on, perhaps?
They just caught it.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the business section of the agenda, if it's acceptable to the committee, I would like to move two items to the front of the list to make it a little easier to spend as much time as we need on some of the others that will take a bit more time. I'd like to move up the discussion and possible appointment to the vacant Montague School Committee seat, which we'll need to vote on. And also move up the appointment of the school committee delegate to MASC. If that's acceptable, I'll entertain a motion to move those two items to the top of the list.
So moved.
Mike, thank you. Second,
Seconded.
Joanna, thank you very much. In favor, Jennifer,
Yes.
Cassie,
Yes.
Mike,
Yep.
Bill,
Yes.
Joanna,
Yes.
and myself. Thank you. I'm very happy to announce that we do have a community member who has sent us a letter of interest to join the committee for the vacant seat that Carly had to leave because she's moving out of town. And we are happy this evening. I believe Nicholas is still with us, I hope. Nicholas Licata.
I am.
Oh, hi. You can actually turn your video on now if you'd like, so we can see you as well as hear you. Hi, welcome.
Hi.
Thank you. We're so happy that you're interested in joining us. And this evening we will appoint you. We did not receive another letter of interest, so I assume it'll be unanimous. And the only next step you'll need before you can become a voting member is after the vote, you will need to be sworn in by the town clerk at the town hall in Montague. And then
Okay.
after that, you're officially part of this.
Awesome.
Anything you'd like to say this evening?
Hi.
We're very pleased that you're interested in joining the committee.
I'm happy to do it.
Great. Thank you.
We lost you there, Jane.
Briefly. Am I back?
Yep.
Okay, it was on every once in a while, my connection becomes unstable and apparently there's nothing we can do about it, but I'll entertain a motion to appoint Nicholas Licata to the vacant Montague seat.
I'll move it. Bill.
Okay, Bill,
Cassie, second.
thank you. And all those in favor, Jennifer,
Yes.
Cassie,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Joanna,
Yes.
and myself, yes. It is unanimous. Thank you so much, Nicholas. And we will be seeing you at our next regular meeting on September 28th. And we'll be in touch also to give you kind of an orientation, give you a bit of information and some information about the meetings when they are, and anything that you might want to know to begin with. Okay.
Okay, sounds great.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And next, we need to appoint a school committee delegate to the MASC conference. It can either be in person or virtual. I believe I racked my memory, and I think last time Jennifer was considering whether she might want to do that.
I'll do it.
And she has agreed. Oh my, wow.
Well,
Great. Yes, yes. Thank you. I did it for several years and it really is quite interesting. It really is.
I mean, if I feel like if I'm gonna go to Hyannis and do it, I may as well go all in.
Right. And the resolutions that you vote on our behalf, we will bring all the resolutions to this committee and we'll discuss them ahead of time. And we'll let you know how we wish you to vote.
Great. Awesome.
That's the way that it all works too. Those will be coming through at some point soon. All right. I will entertain a motion to appoint Jennifer, sorry, Jennifer as delegate to the MASC conference in Hyannis in November.
well, now that I know my space bar turns on the microphone, I'll move it again.
Mike, thank you.
Second.
And Bill seconded. All right. Those in favor. Jennifer, are you in favor?
Yes.
Cassie,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Joanna,
Yeah.
Yes.
and Jane. Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
You
Okay.
bet.
So we've done those 2 items. We move forward. We can then go back to the list as it exists under business. The first item being discussion of remote in-person school committee meetings. We said we would keep.
You're froze, Jane. Your voice froze. No, you're still frozen.
Am I back?
Now you're back.
It was great the first bit, and since then it's not been very good. I think we've been discussing right along the option of going back when it might work. I know Tina's been working on all the IT issues. I certainly, anything anyone wants to say on the subject, I'd be happy to hear it. I just myself have thought about it again, considering how the numbers are going up in the community and up in the county. Originally, I'm just speaking personally, one of my issues was fewer people in a building when there's more danger of having spread is probably better. And since it's not critical for us to be there in person, we have been functioning continually since COVID made us remote, and we have actually been able to be available to the community in a lot of ways. So anyone else have any thoughts on that? Joanna?
I think based on the report and what you've said, I just want to agree with you for safety's sake, and to let the children just be as safe as possible right now if we're not necessarily needed in the building, and this has been working for us. I think it's great to just keep going this way until we can do it differently again.
Thank you. Anyone else? Bill?
How long do you think we'll be authorized to continue doing it?
I believe when the governor authorized it, he went all the way to spring or the end of the year. I was surprised that he made it a fairly lengthy authorization.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it's through April 1st of next year. There are perhaps a handful of school districts who had begun to meet in person, and they recently have reverted back to remote because, their numbers in their communities have also climbed.
Okay. The other thing that keeps occurring to me, because we would be still needing, unless something changes dramatically, to be wearing our masks while we're meeting in person. I do not have any confidence. I have all the confidence in IT we have, but I have no confidence that us talking with masks into those microphones would be heard well by anybody anywhere. And that's what I'm concerned about. I just think that additional muffling of the voice, we've had issues with the microphones when we broadcast our meetings previously. They aren't always easy for people to hear us. I have a hard time believing masks would help that. But maybe with time, maybe a mask will come forward that amplifies the voice. I have no idea. All right. Well, thank you then. We'll keep it on the agenda, but won't make any changes at the moment. The next item on our list is review of the district annual strategic plan. And that would be Brian, I believe.
Can I interject an afterthought just for a minute?
Oh, absolutely.
I just want to thank you. I think you have the right approach in terms of whether or not to continue with the remote meetings, and I think your concerns are genuine. So thanks for expressing them.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody being very thoughtful about things. It's an interesting time, and we're faced with a lot of different dilemmas. I mean, I personally find running meetings by Zoom to be challenging, I must say, challenging at best, but it's what we need to do, I think. Okay, Brian, how are we doing?
Good, I'm sorry, I got interrupted with a phone call. And so are we at the review of the district strategic plan for the year? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen. I have just a few brief slides. I did try to get the document down to one pager, and with Tina's assistance and some consultation with some new superintendents from across the state yesterday, I was able to do so. So I wanted to say thank you to Tina for her assistance today. I don't quite have the technological skills to be able to have formatted the document and got it all into one page. So the theory of action behind the annual strategic plan is to build off of our district goals. And rather than putting actions in place for over 3 years, it has been the practice of my predecessor, and I think it makes sense to continue to do so, especially during the pandemic, to articulate annual objectives at the district level in what would be normally be called the district improvement plan, and ensure that that's aligned with the building-based school improvement plans, which will be presented at the first meeting in October. So in order to get the information to you as to how this was developed, during the process of developing our strategic goals, we took into consideration that the pandemic has resulted in substantial disruptions to student learning for more than a year now. In order for our kids to recover from lost learning, we're committing to 3 priorities, and these priorities were drawn verbatim from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's acceleration roadmap. First is to foster a sense of belonging and partnership among students and families. 2, to continuously monitor students' understanding. And 3, to ensure strong, grade-appropriate instruction with scaffolding to provide access to new content and skills. The first of the district goals is around engaging our families as active partners to support the academic and social emotional development of students. The first of the 3 annual objectives at the district level under this goal is to implement the district's communications improvement plan. A draft of the plan was put together over the summer with Tina and her team and Rachel Vicula from Diane Ellis's office, who made really strong contributions to the plan, and it involves everything from communications getting out through social media, expanding the way that we communicate with the community, both externally and in terms of people being able to reach us. And over the course of the year, this year, in particular early in the year, implementing the recommended improvements that are in that plan. We also would like to see increased participation in both the special education and English learner parent advisory councils. While participation has been okay, there's obviously a greater need for students to be supported at this time, and we'd like more families to come out and make contributions to that dialogue. And then to support and promote school, family, and community events. And what I mean by that is having families on campus. Having to add the term safely to this, because we are in the middle of a pandemic, it was our intent to have all of our open houses this fall be on campus. But again, we have to make determinations based on what we believe is safe and how we mitigate transmission. And so we've made the determination that at this time, it's just not safe and logical to really have everybody in the building at once. So what we'd like to be able to do is to organize other events over the course of the year, promote those, and make every attempt that we can to get families on campus with their children and with our educators as often as possible over the course of the year. For student engagement objectives, the staff will welcome the goal is to welcome and engage students as active partners in their learning who take pride in their efforts and make positive contributions to the school and community. The first of the student annual objectives is to expand, refine, and support student governance structures to increase opportunities for student voices to make contributions to the school, to both school and community improvement efforts. Second, to increase the opportunities for student learning beyond the classroom, such as extracurricular activities, community service opportunities, and student leadership and internships. The third goal is the growth and deals with student growth and achievement. Educators will regularly monitor the impact of instruction on student learning and will make adjustments to maximize student growth and achievement over the course of the next 3 years. This year, at the elementary level, elementary teachers will implement regular assessments on a regular schedule to monitor student progress and growth in both math and ELA. At the secondary level, there's a very refined plan to implement multi-tiered systems of support that makes effective use of student support, of the existing student support teams. And the third objective is to develop structures that allow for the effective use of the 4 half-day data analysis days that the school committee granted us for this coming school year. For the grade appropriate instruction 3-year goal, that educators will deliver grade appropriate instruction with high expectations for all students and provide scaffolding to ensure access to learning. At the elementary level, they'll be implementing with fidelity the second year of the Bridges Math curriculum with the addition of scaffolding, as teachers are recognizing as they're implementing lessons and starting units that they are recognizing that there are some students, and in some cases large portions of students, who need to have some foundation skills in order for the students to access today's lesson. And teachers are working in the curriculum, both the Bridges Math curriculum and the Wit and Wisdom ELA curriculum, to add additional instructional scaffolding at the elementary level. At the secondary level, as I had indicated before, we're providing support for instructional staff to expand scaffolding to provide all students access to grade level content and skills, in addition to implementing tiered instructional models in classrooms. And then in the area or the goal for equity and inclusion, that educators commit to create an inclusive and equitable school environment that provides relevant and accessible educational opportunities, embodies social justice practices, and affirms all students' cultures and identities. That our first annual objective is to provide a safe forum to allow the school community to engage in productive dialogue about issues of equity. We are in the process of trying to find facilitators who can help us put forward a mission for such a group and develop a structure, either a large whole community group, or whether or not sometimes those groups should be school-based rather than for the entire district. At the secondary level, as I've mentioned in the past, we're going to train students to be active bystanders so that they may recognize acts of harm, understand techniques to intervene to help desist such behaviors, and to provide them with support and direction for reporting such occurrences to trusted adults in their building. And at the elementary level, we're providing professional development to empower educators to effectively implement instruction and engage students in developmentally appropriate dialogue about race, culture, and issues of equity. And that's more or less a summary of the strategic objectives for the year. Timelines for completion of each of the tasks are being wrapped up now, as we're wrapping up some elements of the annual professional development plan for the year. Some of them are well underway, and many of them will appear in the building-based school improvement plans in October. I wanted to see if anybody had any questions about any of the aspects of what I've shared. Okay, great.
Point now, thank you, Brian. As anything occurs to someone, at the other meetings, we can certainly discuss it. Do you think at this point you would like the committee to vote on it as it stands? What's your feeling?
Yeah, I would appreciate if the committee could vote to approve this so that we can begin to share this with educators who can work to align their own instructional goals as well as the school improvement plan to the district goals and objectives for the year.
Okay, thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve the district annual strategic plan.
I'll move it.
Bill,
Bill.
thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Jennifer. All right, all those, let's see, in favor, Jennifer,
Yes.
Cassie,
Yes.
Heather, no, I'm sorry, Mike,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Joanna,
Yes.
and myself. Yes, thank you. Yes, and then we will be getting the school improvement plans at a later date. I know all the administrators worked really hard with you on this, and we really appreciate all the work that's gone into it.
Yeah, and I'm very appreciative of the work of everybody on the administrative team in the research that we had done together over the summer and developing consensus around what our focus is. I think we're able to provide some higher levels of autonomy to to access the creativity of our teachers while simultaneously helping them to align that autonomy with our collective objectives and hopefully be laser focused on helping students make ground.
Thank you. Okay, our next item on the agenda is discussion about addressing pandemic learning loss. Anything in that area that we haven't already discussed, Brian?
No, so this is, I wanted to just ask the committee if you felt like this was a reasonable suggestion. And we can make the change for our next, if the committee is amenable. One of the considerations in talking with the administrative team, and also with, I brought this up with Jane and with Cassie in agenda setting, that one of the things that I noticed over the course of the last year in dealing with standing agenda items is that sometimes we don't have anything new to report. And my concern is twofold. One, that we take up time of the committee that could otherwise be used efficiently, and that or we're being repetitive in sharing something that we shared in a previous meeting because there's nothing that's new to report out on one of the standing agenda items. So I thought it was a good suggestion to consider for the committee to consider separating those two agenda items so that we would address one in one monthly meeting and the other in the other monthly meeting. If the committee is amenable to that, I'm wondering what you're thinking.
Any thoughts on that?
I think that makes sense.
Okay, anyone else? I mean, I think in terms of the agenda and dealing with it at different times, I don't think we necessarily need to take a vote on that. We could even do just a little thumbs up sort of thing, if that makes sense to align the agendas in that method. People feeling that's okay? Okay.
It's one of your stipulated responsibilities and duties, so I think it's appropriate to leave you to it.
Okay.
We
Thank
always to consult with the group, Brian and Cassie and I, because we're all good problem solvers in this group, so that always helps. All right, thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Next one, also discussion of, I guess on the pandemic, it isn't exactly learning loss, but I guess I just wanted to remind people, I don't know as you mentioned it this time in your report, that the Pandemic Response Advisory Committee is again working, which is.
No, you're right. I didn't, and I didn't put that in. The next meeting, I apologize, Jane. Thank you for bringing that up. The next meeting will be next Wednesday, the 22nd. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
And that's a committee, if people aren't familiar or have forgotten in the community, that it's a wide range of stakeholders that are represented in that group. I'm a member as a member of the school committee, but I'd also like to invite the committee if anyone else would like to attend some of those meetings. They would be welcome. There's it's a good problem solving group again, and lots of good input on questions that are brought up. I think unless we have a quorum, which in our case would be 5 or more members, I don't think we need to post it as a specific school committee meeting. But if someone would like to take the opportunity on occasion to stop in for that meeting, they're welcome.
So I will begin next week to sharing not just with the acronym is PRAC, with the PRAC team, but I'll also share the invitation with school committee members in case you decide that you want to join and listen or make a contribution to that group. It has been, since the start of this, really invaluable. There have been a number of problems that have been addressed or raised within that group, in some cases solved by deliberating in that group, before they became major issues. And there are other issues that arose that we were able to address within that group and then bring it to experts who were able to help us resolve problems. So it's been a very helpful group, and it's been a good way for staff to get information to us and for parents to get information for us to consider.
Jennifer?
Is that meeting open to the public? Sorry if you already said that. Can anyone participate, or is it?
It's an ad hoc committee, and we have a team, but right now we're actually we're going to engage in a process very shortly of trying to invite more parents. We've lost a couple parents because some folks have moved on, and some folks had to get off the committee because of other obligations or their work situation changed. So we do need a little bit more parent representation, because right now I think the only parents that are on the group of who have children in the district are staff, myself included, because I'm a parent of a student in the district. So we'd like to get at least a handful of non-student parents, and if we could get one from each school, that would be great. Especially we try to.
Did you mean non-employee parents?
Yes.
Okay. And then what is the process by which a person with interest would follow?
I'm actually going to send out an email inviting people to consider and have them respond to me. But if there is somebody that you know might be interested in the community, Jennifer, they can just send me a note of interest. I'd like to join that committee, and then we'll just add them to the email group.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Mike?
Thank you. I was listening to you describing the process, Brian. It occurs to me that it will have had some positive impact on the equity situation, and might be a good model moving forward for a way of getting people a real stake in, issues that affect their daily input. We weren't thinking about that at the time, but I think it's a good role model.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good point, Mike.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else? Well, that's a very nice segue into the next item on the agenda, which is discussion of issues of equity.
Actually, Jane, I addressed that in the plan and the discussion about separating them out on subsequent agendas.
Right, and that's
Okay.
fine. I didn't know if there was anything additional tonight.
No, not at this particular point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And the last item under business this evening is discussion about school committee goals. And I know we've had that as a standing issue, and we've had our goals for people to look at. I have been just asking Tina questions about problem solving and how we might do it most effectively. Cassie and I, when we were agenda planning what to put on and how, since we're not in the same room, when we used to use like the whiteboard and chart pads and stickies and all, it's hard to do that in this way. And I was kind of hoping within a short amount of time we would be in person. It doesn't appear that that's going to happen. So as we talked to Tina about it, something that came up as a suggestion, and Tina is here if you have other questions, because certainly I don't know much about technology. I'm willing to admit that. The Google Docs could be used during.
Yeah.
We lost you, Jane.
Yeah.
So I think what Jane was getting to is we had talked about utilizing Google Docs and sharing that at the meeting, like Brian did with his presentation earlier, but giving all of us access to to edit and include different things that we wanted to see, sort of like when we're in the past, when we've had working meetings in the conference room and we've all written things on the whiteboard, that sort of thing.
Thank you. My connection had another issue. Loving technology, but I think the Google Docs is a good way for groups to put things on as they occur to them, but because we are ruled by the open meeting law, we can't do something that would be really nice and have it up for members to just put their ideas in as they get to them, and then they'd be ready by the meeting. Open meeting law requires that there's nothing that could lead to a discussion outside of the meeting, so we really can't do it that way. So we would have to do it at the actual meeting.
Not that I want to add one more meeting, but I guess I was just picturing doing it at a working meeting like we used to.
Mm-hmm. That's something else that came up. Otherwise, it would make a regular meeting quite long if we tried to address that. If there was perhaps an extra, I don't want to use the word extra, but a Tuesday when we're not meeting as a committee for a regular meeting, when we could have what's called a working meeting and just have that one item on the agenda. Cassie, is that what you're thinking?
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
Yes. So what are people thinking about that? Jennifer?
I have a question sort of in general. So in this, wonderful binder that I got when I first became a committee member, there's a page which says, school committee operational goals. And I just want to make sure I understand what we're talking about when we are talking about goals. Is it these goals, which are the 5 goals, or is it a broader topic, or is it, more fluid idea? If I could just get clarity about what we mean when we say goals, and sort of if there's a way to understand exactly what has been done in the past and sort of what is the intention for the future.
I'm sorry, my connection became really unstable again. I think I heard the beginning of your question. I mean, I think operational goals are kind of general, and our specific goals are general too, but we try to do similar to the annual strategic plan. We try to come up with goals that are general in a sense, but also seem a bit more applicable to specific instances as much as we can. I think the last ones we included in one of the earlier packets. There was a copy of those, and they expired in 2021.
I'm wondering, sorry, I have my camera off. I'm trying to picture the sheet that she's talking about. I'm wondering if it's actually goals from years ago, or if there is something in the orientation binder that has like goals of a good school committee, like create a fiscally responsible budget, like I don't know what it looks like.
I can tell you what this says if you want.
Does it say it's a policy at the top?
No, it says school committee operational goals, and then it sort of has a couple of paragraphs. It's responsible to children and families. It's responsible to establish purposes, programs, procedures,
yeah, so I think those
and then
are
it has then it lists 5 things in accordance with these principles, the technique will involve, and then it lists 5 things. And then there's other things, and I apologize, I was trying to reference that former packet to see how that compares to what I see in front of me, and I didn't find it. But so I think maybe just having what it is that we're thinking about somewhere that everyone can access, and then sort of review and respond to, because I'm not always clear about what's going on. Just want to make sure, like what is it that we're talking about, and then that way I can contribute.
Cassie, I think what you were, I'm the end of the meeting at my computer becomes unstable. I think it's the connection with other meetings going on in town. Gill has some tough issues that way. I think those goals I think are based on the general roles of school committee. And then we have made ours every several years and updated them to try to be also current as much as we can. And I believe we could include that copy of our goals that are expiring in 2021 in our next packet when we're going to work on those. It seemed when I looked at them, at least to me, just my impression was that a lot of them are still currently goals that we might want to use. We just might want to tweak the language. We might add some other information, or we might want to add specific goals that we neglected when we look back at what we did at that time. Anyone else have anything about that?
I'll just jump in. Yeah, Jennifer was reading the policy about school committee goals. Just to clarify, in case anybody's wondering what that was, looking it up here. If you go to the school committee website or the district website under school committee, our goals, our list of goals is listed. The one that Jane's referring to and that we've seen over the last couple of months is on the bottom there. But I do agree that it would be helpful to have a list that we're all clear that this is our list of goals and knew where it was and could refer to it. And I think just sort of in general, that's been my thought about the mission statement and other things, that if they were clear and sort of more forward, so that in terms of self-evaluation, we could say, did we actually do this stuff this year or not? Because we do, and this is not a finger pointing thing, because I've sat in the chair myself and lost track of all the goals. It happens. We spend a lot of time working on them, and then we get back into the business of the day, and they sort of get lost, or we lose. They don't get lost. We just lose touch with them.
I appreciate that, Mike. I think it has served to remind us sometimes as much as anything. And I think Jennifer's suggestion is well taken too. We probably should have both of those documents included when we're looking at what we'd like our current.
We lost you again, Jane. It's almost over.
Yes, Cassie, I'm sorry. It was perfect at the beginning. I couldn't believe how good it was this evening. But I think when storms are coming, I have a real issue here out in the Netherlands where I live. Are people thinking the Google Docs theory would work for them?
Kind of have to.
Is it worth a try? I guess is where I am. Yeah. And what about the meeting? Would it be possible to pick a Tuesday in the fairly near future when people could commit to a one-item agenda, and we would therefore try to set a time limit to begin with, so we would keep ourselves well focused and try to accomplish as much as we could in that meeting?
Yes, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Is there a date that seems reasonable? Cassie, did you have any theories about that?
Sorry, I thought it kicked me out for a second and I was having technical issues. I mean, would the 5th be an option for anyone?
Yeah, I was actually going to suggest that one. That's a good idea.
Tuesday, the 5th.
The 5th of October.
Mm-hmm.
Let me quickly look at my actual calendar, which is actually a calendar. I think it will work. Let me just check that as well.
And just a thought, while Jane's getting her calendar, the open meeting law thing, if we were to meet first and then use some sort of collective document to do draft work that went to Jane, she could then forward to us summaries of those things. And that wouldn't, I think that might avoid the constitution of an actual deliberative session. But just a thought.
Well,
Okay,
my thought was, and this is, I mean, a few meetings ago, we were given a copy of the old goals, the ones that are expiring.
Mhm.
And I know I scribbled on that sheet. Mike, I think you did too, because we both came back with something to say. But I mean, I envision sort of working off that and then coming to the meeting and even taking the old goals and editing them with the Google Doc. Does that make sense?
Actually, yes, it had occurred to me as well. It doesn't have to be the way we do it. It was just a thought I had to start with those. When I read them again, as Mike said, I think there's a lot of reasons to have goals. And as Jennifer,
Yeah.
They reminded me what we had set our goals as. And I don't think we've lost track of them, but I think it helps to actually reread them. And I think in the process, then tweaking them, adding, changing, keeps them not only current, but foremost in our minds, I think as well, which is never a bad thing.
Yeah, and I think the format of that, if I don't have it in front of me right now, but was good also, just the way that it summed up, you know, we had a goal for communication, and I think there was there might have been a curriculum goal or something like that, but I thought it was organized well.
Yes, it's all coming back to me now. When we worked on that last set of goals, some of us at the conference in Hyannis had attended a conference about setting school committee goals, and got some pointers about how to set them and what might make them work well. And I believe we used those guidelines to help us focus when we were setting those goals. And because of it, we tried to end up making it look kind of similar to like the strategic plan or building goals would. That also makes it more accessible for the community and the school communities if it's set up in a similar type of document.
I think it's good too, because if we start with just a blank document, we'll be there all night. It'll just be one big mess.
We did do that last time, and it was a long few weeks to get anything that we could all work on the page. And we did end up previously, many years ago, we divided into subcommittees and worked on some of the language once we had the ideas. And I remember Mike and I were in the same subcommittee. That was quite a long time ago. But if Google Docs looks like it would work, I think we could have the other two documents, work on Google Docs, perhaps designate one person to do the typing in the document for us, unless people all want to add things. Tina, any thoughts about that?
That would work as a shared document. Anybody could actually go in and type in. So I can also set that up. We'll just kind of establish where the original document's going to be. And it can be with me and then shared to the whole committee.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yes, we would need somebody in charge of that, and you're our go-to person. Are people thinking that would work? How does the date of October 5th look in general for people to meet? Perhaps about the time we usually do, either 6 or 6:30, and we would only have that one. It would be a working meeting as opposed to a regular business meeting. Brian, did you have a thought?
No, I mean, I think it would be better to have it separate than certainly part of a school committee meeting as sort of a one item. I do know that we were doing research in the admin team meeting, and we were all quiet doing our own private reading, but we had the document open for us to be able to add in our thoughts. And then we went back and we engaged in discussion about what people noted, and we were able to identify consensus that way. So I like the idea of using a Google Doc in terms of getting everybody's thinking out and on paper that people can review, you know, in between meetings. So I think that makes sense.
And Jane, I'd be happy to help sort of facilitate it if you're not comfortable with it, just because I've had to do it with my students so many times, remote teaching. So, I mean, that's completely up to you.
Oh,
But
I
don't.
appreciate it. I think I would be more than happy to. My familiarity with Google Docs is extremely limited.
Mhm.
I've had very little interaction with it, and that's okay with me, generally speaking. But that would be very helpful since you
Okay.
have experience. Yep. Okay, are people thinking October 5th would be worth a try? Let's do a thumbs up kind of thing. Are people, is the 5th going to be? All right, it looks like the people in attendance, and then we can check in with other folks as soon as possible to make sure that would work. What looks like a good starting time, 6:30?
Either
I mean,
way.
I would be in favor of starting at 6, just a little bit earlier. But that's just me.
We won't need an executive session as we sometimes do. Well, that's one reason we leave it open to start the open meeting at 6:30. Would 6 work for you, Tina? And you, Brian, as well? Oh. You're mute.
Sorry, it won't work for me on October 5th.
Okay.
Unless they decide that there's another in-person new superintendent program day. But the thing that I'm wondering is, if it's school committee goals discussion, do I need to be there?
Well, exactly. That occurred to me as I asked you, just being polite, but then it
Yeah.
occurred to me that, you know, you might not want us to be that polite. You might not want to have to be there.
Well, it gives you a good chance to talk about me behind my back anyways, right?
Well, we'll try not to, but yeah.
I was gonna say we do anyway, but
Yeah, I sort of figured that, Cassie.
If it comes up in discussion, it comes up in discussion, right?
We'll need an extra hour.
Yeah. All right, well then let's go ahead and do that. I appreciate people working together and brainstorming that. Let's try October 6th at 6 o'clock for goal setting. And see how much we can accomplish. You know, again, it may not all be done at one time, but maybe we can get close enough that then just an item on a regular agenda to circle back with any other edits or things that people have come up with, perhaps. Okay. All right, thank you. We'll go with that theory, and thanks for the suggestion.
I have to learn what Google Docs even is.
All I know is it shows up on in my email, and when you hit it, it goes to the screen. But Tina could explain better.
It's like Microsoft Word, except anybody who's on the doc can edit it at the same time.
So it's just really a word processing document, and we'll put it on screen, up on screen, so everybody can see it. And then any kind of changes you want to make, you can either be the one to make the change, or, you know, and Cassie can just, like, you know, make changes on it and you'll see it. And I think that's the essential piece. So it's just like having a whiteboard in front of you.
Sounds like fun.
We try to make it enjoyable, Bill. If nothing else, we want us to have fun.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. In that case, the business portion is completed. The only thing left for work is approval of minutes. We have minutes from August 10th, 2021 and August 24th from 2021 that are included in the packet. I will entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved, both of them.
Okay, Mike, do we have a second?
Cassie second.
Cassie seconded. And we'll take a roll call vote. Jennifer?
Yes.
Cassie?
Yes.
Wait a minute. I have the wrong document here. Mike,
Yep.
Bill,
Yes,
and I believe Joanna May had to leave a bit early, but we still have a quorum because I make 5 and I say yes as well. I've been keeping an eye on that very carefully. So the minutes are approved. Thank you very much. And if you have any agenda requests, I believe this time we will be doing the basic agenda planning by the end of this week. Things can probably still be added if they come in after that, but I think the best time for us to meet ends up being this Friday. Somebody might want to be out of town that day, and it might be me on our usual agenda planning day, so we'll move it around a bit. But if you have any suggestions, just let any of us, Cassie, Brian, or myself know. Our next regularly scheduled meeting virtually is September 28th at 6:30. Anything else? All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Mike, thank you.
Cassie, second.
Cassie, thank you. Jennifer,
Yes.
Cassie,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Bill,
yes.
and myself, yes. All right, thank you all very much. Have a good evening, what remains of it.
Thanks a lot.
Bye. Thank you all.